Molly, thank you for Ask a Pro Take Two with CalHFA, the California Housing Finance Agency with the state of California, who is offering a $40,000 grant for people that are interested in building an ADU in their on their property. So
yes,
welcome.
thank you. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you very, very much.
Even if it is take two, it's okay.
It is. So now I know I did this last time, but I'm going to do it again.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to everybody who's joining us on this webinar. We really appreciate you taking the time to be with us. This is going to be primarily just all education. We're just going to be, I'll be asking some questions. Molly's going to go through slides that she has that kind of talk about the basics of the $40,000 grant that the state is offering. She's going to also talk about the fact that they have a couple dollars. They have $100 million, yes, which equals to about 2,500 ADU grants. And we're going to talk about the, what you can use that for and how you can use it. Just a little bit of housekeeping. If you do have any questions, please put them in the Q&A. We will be watching that as well as the chat. It's great to put them in the Q&A just in case I might forget something or don't see it. Also, we are basing this particular webinar on the How to ADU kind of template, which we're not going to be doing. I'm not going to be promoting my company, but we are definitely going to be promoting CalHFA because they want to give away money to you. So thank you. My name is David Donahue, and I'll be the host for this Ask a Pro webinar. So thank you again, Molly, for take two, and I will turn it over to you.
It is absolutely my pleasure. Thank you for giving me this platform, David. I do really, really appreciate. Hi, everybody. My name is Molly Ellis. I'm with the California Housing Finance Agency. We have some exciting information to share with you today regarding CalHFA's $40,000 ADU grant program. I am going to share my screen if that's okay. Yeah, okay. We'll go ahead and get this started here. So CalHFA is typically a resource for down payment and closing cost assistance, but we were fortunate enough to have a little bit of our own money and a little bit of federal dollars to be able to put together this ADU grant program. We, as a state agency, are trying to promote, responsibly promote additional housing units in the state of California. So this is applicable anywhere in the state of California. If you are interested in building an ADU on your owner occupied property, and I will get a little bit more into the weeds on that, then possibly we can partner with this program so that we can help soften the blow a little bit of some of those upfront costs, the permit fees and that kind of thing. And again, we're going to get into it in a little bit more detail, but just to kind of start us off, I want you to know you can always get additional information on the CalHFA website, 3ws.calhfa.ca.gov. There's a section there that says home buyers, and underneath there it says ADU grant program. You can click on that and it has all resources, lenders, and additional information about the program. I will also share my contact information. So if you have any questions, again, type your questions in the, it's not the chat pane. What's it called, David? In the comments.
Q&A.
In the Q&A, sorry.
Q&A thing right down there. So
yeah, right down there. Go ahead and type out your questions. David will be looking at that and we stay in touch. So if there's anything that he can't answer, he can definitely, and I hope you know this, David, but I'll say it out loud. You can definitely lean on me to answer any questions that you may need answered. So here's the basics. CalHFA has up to a $40,000 grant to promote the construction of ADUs in California. It can be used to offset your pre-development or your soft costs, as many builders and many people who are in the ADU space often refer to it as soft costs. But this could be permit fees, it could be impact fees, soil tests, site preparation, it could be utilities, It can't be utilities for the main house, but to get the utilities to the ADU, sometimes depending on where the location of the ADU on your property, sometimes those can be substantial. So we can help soften that burden. If that's what's stopping you from building your ADU, maybe it's going to cost $40,000 to run your sewer back to the ADU site. If that was the deal breaker before you saw our video today, maybe we can help, and that could incentivize you to be able to actually go through and follow through and build the ADU. So it's going to work for some people. It's not going to work for others. But it's just a great resource that if it can work for you, that it's going to really lessen the amount that you're going to need to get this ADU completed. It can also be used to offset your non-recurring closing costs. So as part of your loan, so that's probably the first thing that you guys are going to catch on to, is that you do have to be getting a loan to finance your ADU. That loan has to have a managed construction escrow. And for some of you, if you're trying to do piece by piece, cash when you have it, just really kind of getting through this build piece by piece as you can. Unfortunately, it's not going to work. As a state agency, we are responsible for this money, and this is not something that we can fund directly into the hands of the homeowner. It has to go into the managed construction account with the fully funded project. So you go to a CALHFA approved lender or another program that's approved with us to get the funding for your ADU. You're approved for the funding for your ADU. Even if that is some of your cash in, that's fine, but your cash has to go into the escrow. The funding from the whatever your financing source goes in, then my 40,000, not mine, you know what I mean, the $40,000 grant goes in. You have a fully funded project. That's what we have to have, because that ensures that the ADU is going to get built and that our money is being used for what it was intended. So that's why sometimes I find that if I explain the why behind it, it starts to make a little bit more sense for folks, instead of just saying, no, you can't do a traditional cash out refi. People are like, oh, why? Because it can't just have that money in your hand.
Right.
It has to go to the ADU.
One of the questions in the Q&A, Molly, was, I know that what can it be used? Can the 40,000 be used for? Permit fees. It can be for architectural design fees.
Yes.
And it can be for running. Let's say you need to put in a brand new separate septic system. Mm-hmm. You'd be able to do that, or connecting the ADU to the sewer system of the house, or getting it to the street where it needs to go. That's what the 40 can be used for as well. And question hasn't come up yet, but I thought it was a wonderful thing that you mentioned last time that we did this. It can go to buy down the points on your loan. Yes.
Yeah. So as the interest rate started to tick up, nobody could foresee that, right? So that's when we expanded the amount on the ADU grant program to the $40,000 as it sits now. And we expanded that it can be used for non-recurring closing costs. So, and it's for that very reason. Interest rates have gone up. So if a refinance is not something that you wanted to do because you have a really great rate on your first, maybe using part or frankly all of the $40,000 to buy down your interest rate, maybe that's the thing that tips the scales and makes you say, okay, yeah, I'm ready to do this. So it's $40,000. It can be used in so many ways, but it can't be used for the main house. So when we're talking utilities, it can't be made to update or to upgrade the main house to handle the ADU. So just to draw some lines for y'all, but it can be used to get the utilities from the main house to the ADU, right? So you see kind of the difference there. And somebody's going to ask, so I'll just say it. Somebody's going to ask, Can I have a list of what it can be used for? And no, I'm sorry, I don't have that list, but there's a reason. I want you to know the why, okay? So the reason is we don't know. One of the first questions I got when we announced our program was, there's a giant tree where I want the ADU, where the ADU needs to go. Can your money be used to remove the tree? I got to say yes to that. Is there a list that says removal of tree where ADU has to go? No. So we made our list broad. I almost used the word generic, but that's probably not exactly the right word, but vague, that's the word I'm looking for. We made it vague so I could say yes, right? So I could say yes to those little one-off questions, as long as it's not construction, no hammer, no nails, no lumber, no labor. As long as it's not the construction of the ADU, we want to be able to say yes. And so by leaving it vague, that let us stay open as we learned more and more about this process, because again, this is not what we normally do, but we're learning and learning about this process as we go. And so if it is something that is a true pre-development or soft cost of the project, we want to say yes.
That's great. I think that definitely answers the question very well.
Okay.
And it's nice too, because even from the first time when I first learned about the increase from 20 to 40, there's constantly been changes. I mean, the website, first of all, for you folks who have not been to the CALHFA website, I recommend that you do, because it is, as soon as you get to the ADU portion, you can find where there's a question that we got in the Q&A. It's like, what are the income limits? And so I just printed that out before.
Nice.
So the income limits also, I believe, Molly,
That
were
changed.
up.
Yeah, that's another thing that changed from the time we did our first presentation. We were able to announce our 2022 income limits. CalHFA works on a fiscal year, so we announce mid-year instead of the beginning of the year. But remind me, David, what area of the state are you in?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Okay, so just so that we keep it relevant, right? So Los Angeles County, the income limit is $180,000. So that's an annual income limit. Yeah, it went up.
It was 158,000.
Yeah. It was a substantial increase. So that's whoever, it doesn't necessarily have to be a household income. I know programs like ours often lean into a household income. We do not. You get to use whatever whatever you're using. So if you're the consumer and you're using your, giving the lender your income to document to qualify you for the mortgage, that's all the income that we're going to use in the income limit. So whatever the lender is using to qualify you, that's what we're going to use and make sure you're under that $180,000 threshold. That could be one borrower, it could be three.
Gotcha. And since my printout is only a month or so old, so this is
just changed. Yeah, it just changed last week.
Can you tell me what Napa Sonoma is?
Yes, so Napa. So keep in mind, this is based off the area median income. It's a scale, and we get to go to 150%. But it is based off the area median income, and Napa's a little bit more. Can you tell? I'm trying to set this up before everybody gets excited. Napa's more expensive. So Napa County, 236,000. Right? So that's the beauty of this, you guys. Even though this is, sorry, I get excited, I get tongue-tied.
It's quite all right.
This is the cool thing about CalHFA in a lot of what we do. We have gotten to where we can use make sense income. Yes, there are income limits, but so many programs have to base the income limits off of the federal level. So when it comes to California, so many times we're priced out because everything's more expensive here, cost of living is here, incomes are higher here to offset everything else, right? So these are true low to moderate income. It's not really low, but this is a true moderate income home buyer, which is a very cool thing, if you ask me, but I'm biased because.
There was a question that came in from somebody who has low income or lower income, and that 74 years old, they're still going to have to go through a program of qualifying for a construction loan.
Yes,
So,
or renovation loan, yes.
yeah, or a renovation loan. So to the question, Becca, you're going to have to show some income to be able to qualify for a loan of some type.
For the ADU.
For the construction of the ADU, to be able to use the 40,000, because the control component, as Molly said, is they need to put it into an escrow account, so that as the ADU project reaches certain phases, or they can at least release those funds.
Right, exactly.
That's it.
The ADU itself has to meet all Fannie Mae FHA feature requirements, and that's even, it could even go, we've seen a couple, even Freddie Mac, their renovation product as well. But basically what that means, it has to have a kitchen, right? It has to have a separate interest. It has to have a restroom. Those are some of the major feature requirements. But again, we do leave it vague so that whatever that common component is in the industry, that we can work right alongside it and not work against it. There's also junior ADUs, right? So if somebody's doing, I know this happens a lot in your neck of the woods, right, David? There's the garage, the separate garages. So there's a lot of people who may want to convert their garage into an ADU. That could be done too. It's just the only limit, it is a limit. I'm not gonna pretend here, but the only limit is to what the lender community and the renovation and construction community, what they have in products to help you get it financed. So that's the financing mechanism is what the limit is. And if you're completely frustrated right now and you've been looking for anything and everything, I will tell you it's changing. It's starting. Right. People are starting to take a look at these types of programs. Some cities, we're working with Pasadena, we're working with San Diego, we're working with Oakland. We're starting to work with some of these local agencies that have ADU programs to figure out a way that we can bring the two together so they can be leveraged to help get these units built across the state.
Right, because CalHFA wants to get the money out. And again, when I first started doing my research, and I found, and we saw there was $100 million, but your agency is looking at ways. I mean, if the money is not getting out there, like you said, you're working with other jurisdictions, you want to get that money out. It needs to be put in the hands of the homeowners to be able to be used. And so even as there have been multiple changes that have come since the announcement of it in the very beginning, I expect that there are going to continue to be some very exciting, interesting changes to the program to make sure that this funding amount gets used and gets put on the ground one way or the other.
Yeah, exactly. And we did just also this month start accepting applications from local jurisdictions, credit unions, nonprofits who have this great experience in this ADU space to get them to apply to be able to use their program with the ADU grant program. We're even starting to talk to folks who have that managed construction escrow as it stands, because we think it will pair with the traditional product line that's available. What I mean by that is right now, if you wanted to use, like, for example, a HELOC, equity line of credit, to build your ADU, unless your particular lender had a way to tie that to a managed construction escrow and fully fund it, you can't use it. And right. Frankly, I don't know that you want to, because you would be paying for it from the get-go. So that has its own thing, or even a cash out refinance. So right now, there's not a clear-cut way to be able to use those types of programs to build your ADU. But if there was another nonprofit organization who would come in and manage the project and do the construction escrow and manage it, that you can put it with, then maybe that's where we can start to utilize cash out refinances and some other sources of programs. So that's what we're really working on now. So if you are a nonprofit that are, watching this video, if you are, if you're tuning in today, if you are doing your research and you're trying to find ways to help in this space, design your program so that it can be used in conjunction with CALHFA, so we can leverage this and get even more ADUs built. That's my little call to action for anyone who might be doing a little bit of research and works in this ADU space. And then for all of you who are interested in building your ADU, if you're frustrated right now because you can't find that financing mechanism, I'm just going to, my call for you guys is to try to be patient. If you find a way to do it, do it. So don't, hang all of your, don't hang everything on what I'm saying here, because I don't know what part of this is going to come to fruition. So if you find a way to do it, please do it. But also check back to the website. You're going to start to see that expand a little bit, maybe to have some other additional options that might be able to help you above and beyond traditional financing.
Because on the website, you also have a list, and I know that changes, of all of the approved lenders, because it is important to understand that you have to use one of the lenders that has gone through the qualification process with CALHFA.
Yes, exactly. And I really hope to have a second layer to that. That's our new call to credit unions who aren't necessarily approved with CALHFA right out the gate. We went to our tried and true lenders first because they've been vetted. They've been working with us on other projects and other programs, but they have that renovation construction experience. So they have that up and going program that's available that we could just implement kind of immediately. It was quick. So that was the best way that we could deploy the program quick and efficiently. So we're referring to it as phase 2. This phase 2 is to reach out to these other cities, counties, other entities that might have dollars to put towards an ADU grant program that we can put together. Credit unions, that's another one. So I know there's a credit union that they haven't applied yet, so I'm not going to say who they are, but watch other videos, just saying. But they have a second mortgage program, which could be a good fit if if a borrower that has a really low great rate on their first and doesn't want to refinance. One of our approved lenders, CalCon and One Trust, they have a second mortgage program under certain circumstances. So and that was not available when the program first came out. So just keep an eye on it. It is evolving, and if it doesn't work now, it may down the road. You never know.
And to that, because that's relatively new information since you and I first spoke, is a second mortgage that was not part of the program. So just to kind of echo your suggestion and to support it, is that do pay attention to maybe follow CALHFA on all their social media platforms. And I imagine you're on most of them.
Yes.
Callie, so Twitter.
I'm not so good at it, but my marketing department is fantastic at it.
So do go out there and follow them for updates, because there's a lot of things happening, and I know it can be overwhelming at times thinking about how you're going to be able to move forward with your ADU project.
And check the website. It's one click from the main page, ADU grant program under the homeowner section, and just it's all in one section. So just play around in there a little bit. You'll start to see the expansion of the program. It's just going to get bigger.
Yeah, and I was speaking with one of the approved lenders who's doing the second mortgage earlier today, and one of the things I think I want people to keep in mind is that you want to involve the lender in the very beginning. So even though you're thinking about a second, so what that means is, if you're going to, typically when you start an ADU project, people are going to go to find a designer, an architect to kind of lay out their ADU. So they're going to be walking around with a set of plans that they can then go and probably get a price from a general contractor. So with a construction loan or a second that's going to involve you building an ADU, you want to start with the beginning of finding a lender. So if, for example, the second, you don't want to lose that interest rate that you have on your primary, but you do want to get financing and help for that ADU. The company, you said the bank that's doing it now is
CalCon, OneTrust.
CalCon. So, and that's on the website, correct?
Yeah, they're listed on the website as CalCon. They have a DBA called OneTrust. That's in their actual email. There's even a place you can click on there and set up an appointment with them because they've been getting a lot of calls.
They did. And I was able to look at Sean's list. He sent me a whole availability. So you get a 15-minute block, which I thought was brilliant the way he did it. And so there are certain limitations to the second mortgage. And you want to talk to him about, talk to anybody there about that, and they'll kind of walk you through the process. They do have a funding limit, so they need to start, right around 200,000, and then they may just adjust very, very slightly, but not much, and they're going to be able to provide, the funding for all those fees. So they're going to be able to have a structure of your cost. And so, as Molly mentioned, you want to use the 40,000 to buy down that interest rate, pay for the architect, and pay for improving the site. That 40,000 is going to go quickly. I can state that for a fact because in our backyard, I have a 60% completed ADU, and it is amazing how fast those things can happen.
Yeah.
So what do you see happening for your second phase? I mean, you talked about it a little bit with the credit unions, but what else can you share with us?
So, so far I have about 9 applications out. I'm just waiting for a couple of things from a couple cities. And if you know of a city or a county program that has an ADU program, I actually did a realtor event this morning, and somebody mentioned a City of Citrus Heights program, which is a local city here in my area. So I'm like, okay, they're going to be my next phone call, because if we hear of a program that we might be able to work together, we definitely want to have that conversation, right? To see if there's a program. I think Pasadena, in your neck of the woods, Pasadena has one. I'm working with them still to get their completed application. So you'll see, and I know everybody on this call aren't from these jurisdictions, but my point is, if you know of, or maybe that could be part of you advocating on your behalf, reach out to the city that your property is located in. You have to have the conversation with them about the permits anyway. It's probably a different department, but it can't hurt to ask to see if they have any type of ADU program. Some of them can be more strict than ours. We purposely left ours pretty open as to what you could use. You can use the ADU for anything. You don't have to rent it out necessarily. Grandma can move in there. It could be your man cave. Like, really, we just want to get that affordable source of housing into California. And we made it as easy as we possibly could to be able to do that.
So one of the questions and Ben, thank you very much for yours. He happens to be with Homebridge, one of your approved lenders.
Yay!
And the question is homeowners to refinance and get, like we mentioned it several times, to give up their 2 2.25 rate to get 5.5, sometimes it's gonna be hard to make sense.
It's gonna hurt. Yeah.
It's gonna hurt a little bit. So would you, I'm just asking, don't know, haven't heard, no rumors, but would CalHFA, if they have not been able to move through the 100 million in as quick a fashion as they would like, would they consider adding more to the grant?
Not at this time, but I will never say never. Right.
So there's a possibility and not only it'd be, because again, everybody's trying to weigh the fact that they have a 5 3/4 and they have a 2 3/4 and they don't want to go to 5 3/4 because they're looked at the amortization schedule and they're like, well, yeah, that's going to eat that 40 is going to be eaten quickly.
Right. And the fact of the matter is everybody's going to need to do what's best for their family, right? It's the same thing when the rates start to go up, when you're starting to entertain whether or not to do a cash out refinance. If you really want to build the ADU, the rate is not as much of it is right now because of the huge swing in such a short period of time. But it depends on your need, right? Do you
Pain
need
point.
the ADU or is it a want? It just depends on what's best for your family. So yeah, y'all are gonna have to make that decision for yourself. But if you do decide now that the answer is no, I don't want to do this because the financing mechanism are not in place for it to make sense for you and for your family, then absolutely don't do it. But what I'm saying is check back because that is changing.
Right. And you're touching on something that I've found that resonates with a lot of people that I talk to, which is what is their pain point? And one of those is predominantly an ADU client or person who wants one is looking to house an elderly family member. And that is a real easy number to justify. If there's something that's kind of keeping you from doing the ADU, and it may be, you know, a couple tens of thousands of dollars, this grant is going to really help because you want to be able to get this ADU built as quickly as you can because your parent or family member is facing having to go into a fostered living center or some sort of assisted living center. And those
which can be crazy expensive all on their own, right?
Southern California, it's anywhere between $8,000 to $12,000 a month.
Yeah.
So if you're having to pay, you know, $2,000 or $2,500 in an additional mortgage, you know, that in some situations is going to be a quarter of what you'd have to pay to have that person housed someplace else.
Exactly.
So having them very close, I think, is important. You know, we're excited that my father-in-law, who's 86, no problems with it whatsoever, is going to be in our ADU. So he's going to be able to settle in, get it all kind of situated, and
that's amazing. That's so exciting. That's the dream. You're living the dream right there.
A lot from his daughters. Yeah, he's going to get a little spoiled, and he's looking forward to it. Do you have any other slides?
Let's see. We talked about that. Oh, my contact info.
Perfect.
That was the last one. I should have done that much more gracefully. I apologize. But yeah, contact information is there. If you, want to reach out, you have any questions. Again, my name is Molly. I'm the training and outreach manager for CALHFA. Happy to help in any way I can.
Yeah, so great slide to take a screenshot of if you haven't. So, and I will attest that Molly is wonderful about being able to engage in questions. And I think her enthusiasm is shared across her team. And I think it's exciting to be able to have the opportunity for a state agency to say, hey, we just want to give out some money and we got $100 million of it.
Yep.
So it's a really exciting program. Can you talk to me a little bit as we're getting towards the wrap up time and just a little bit like, what have you seen from your approved lenders as far as applications? How are they going? You know, are you getting any feedback from people that what's it like?
Yeah, hands down, the most feedback from especially the lenders, because that's who we have the most direct contact with, is the ease of use. We really were very aware that the easier this was to deploy, that the more people would take advantage of it. The lenders would want to participate with us in the program. So ease of use, hands down, is number one. It's super easy to do. It's easy for your lender to do. But the sticking point really is what financing mechanism is out there to be able to deploy it, right? So we are working on that. So keep that in mind. I know I keep saying it, I'm sorry, but we are working on that. So keep that in mind. And then we kind of hit a tiny bit of a lull. We're at 20. So that's fabulous. So we've done 20 of them, a little of everything. We've done Fannie home style renovation refinances. We've done 203K refinances. We've done a couple of the second mortgages through CalCon.
Oh, good.
So we're really confident. And I think we're gearing up for another run too. Like I've talked to a lot of lenders lately that have said, well, I have 2 or 3, I'm now ready to reserve. Because the hard thing about this is the build time, right? So somewhere in the middle of the process, you know, from application to the time they're actually ready to close their loan, submit to us and break ground. Sometimes that could be a little bit of a swing in time. So we are gearing up for another little run here. Hopefully I will be able to report 100 ADUs very, very soon. They're all over the state though. There's a lot here in the Sacramento area. I say a lot, 20 total, but if you look at the what we have, I think Sacramento is still #1 in the number of ADUs that we currently have funded and is in the construction phase. We've completely closed out. I'm totally guessing, so please don't hold my feet to the fire on this, but I know when I saw the list, there was at least 5 or 6 that we already had certificates of occupancy, or whatever the county version of that is, if your county doesn't actually do a certificate. So which means basically it's been built. So
Right.
it's starting to go. It really, really is.
Thank you. And if you would stop screen sharing, since
Oh, yeah,
hopefully
yeah,
everybody's
sorry.
that. I know that, and I do this for the recording, because that way, because we're usually one tiny little square. And then so just for this, the one of the things I want to kind of share with people, you mentioned the time that it takes. If you are just looking into an ADU, there are a lot of jurisdictions around the state that have a pre-reviewed or pre-approved ADU floor plan.
Yeah.
And if you have a flat lot, you're not on a hillside, you don't have a lot of other factors that will really affect how your ADU is going to be built, take a look at those. As an example, the county of San Diego has very large plans. So those would not necessarily work in more of an urban part of it. Now, in San Diego County is different than the city of San Diego, but there's been a lot of really positive feedback on what their program is. Also, Napa, Sonoma, Northern California, I just got off of a Casita Coalition meeting of the members, and they are really trying to get a lot more jurisdictions to embrace a number of, and they're calling them not pre-approved, but pre-reviewed. So they've kind of been looked at them. They would be oriented north, south, east, west, and mirrored and flipped. And I think that then there's some great companies in Northern California that are offering these pre-designed kind of, I'm not saying pre-built, but the floor plans are already there. So you don't have to take that time.
Right. It's a shortcut for the architecture and design, right? It's your plans, basically. I know Placer County, which is where the offices are in Sacramento County, but I live in Placer County up here. And Placer County has whatever we're calling it, pre-approved or they have ADU plans for free.
Yes, and that's the part that's going to be really interesting to see how they make it through the Title 24.
Yeah.
Energy calculations, because each APN number, the assessor parcel number of your property is going to have to be calculated. So someone's going to run the T24 to make sure that they have those pages within your plan set to submit to your jurisdiction to kind of get them approved. But I think that one of the biggest strengths is the time component.
Yeah.
You might save a couple, if you want to get something that's a free plan, that's great, but somebody's going to have to put their name on it. So some designer, engineer, and then running the Title 24, but you, in theory, could get it in, a month or two, as opposed to a year or more.
Right.
And that's what you want to think about this, is that length of time it's going to take, not only to get your designs, drawn and to get your plans ready to put together to submit. It is hopefully we're using something that's been pre-approved, pre-reviewed by a jurisdiction, is just going to make it go that much more quickly and hopefully save a lot more money. And I think that's something you can talk to the lenders about. And I think that the CalCon folks with the second mortgage, keep your primary mortgage, it's going to be interesting to see how they really get some traction and how they are working.
They've already done some.
And that's fantastic.
Already doing it. Yeah.
To be able to get that in there. So for the future, things are going to continue to change with CalHFA.
Yep.
Stay, follow them on the social medias, do page mark their website, because things happen all the time. And again, I didn't know that the income limits had gone up significantly for LA County. I mean, again, mine says 158, now it's at 180 something.
Yep.
And just for the one person. So I would just qualify as myself. I wouldn't have to worry about, my wife having a call. She's not going to be required. But then again, that is a component of the lender that you choose to work with on how they want to put it all together to make sure that they can do your construction loan or your second loan so you
Right.
can build your ADU. I will add that a couple places to also follow for updates and information is the How to ADU Facebook page. If you're not on Facebook, that's okay, but you may want to open up a page just to follow. There's a lot of information. Folks like myself will share insights. We will share this video once we kind of get it through post-production, share a link so you can kind of dive into it and learn as much as you can, because we do want to educate. I think that it is evident that Molly
That's
is
number
here
one.
to educate people about how the $40,000 can be used and also keep everybody updated. And if there are updates that are kind of exciting, Molly, it'd be great to have you back. So we
Yeah,
can
absolutely.
share
Anytime.
with everybody. And I also will give you a compliment. I heard from one of the people of the real estate groups that I think you met with this morning, was that you make yourself available to people and to groups to, again, to share the fact that the CALHFA wants to give out all this money.
Yes,
So
absolutely.
that was wonderful. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Any
Yeah,
parting thoughts?
appreciate it.
Any parting thoughts or comments?
No, thanks so much, David, for having me on today. Again, just if it doesn't work for you right now, don't get frustrated. Check back to the website. And yeah, let's go build some houses for sure.
I love it. Thank you again. Thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. And if you're watching this on a recording, put some comments in, either myself or Molly will be sure to get back to you because we want to help you build your ADU. You guys have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, guys.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, David. Bye-bye.
Bye.